Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
I got to talk. I got to tell what I feel. I got to talk about my life as I see it.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Phil, how's it going again? Another beautiful day here for the podcast.
I am doing good. So much to talk about this week, man. A lot of stuff happened all around.
Doesn't it seem like we have just a ton of things to go over and unpack every week at this point?
Yes.
So that's a good thing, I guess. We got something to talk about anyways.
Usually, over the years, these are the months that are slow for sports, entertainment, and news.
I would say you're right, but generally that's not been the case right now.
So before we get started, Mike, I wanted to see if you are emotionally okay. The Super Bowl was yesterday, and Donald Trump walked out on the field and got a roarous applause, and they booed your girlfriend.
They really did attack Tay-Tay there a little bit. I don't really know what that was all about. I mean, let's be honest. She was born in Pennsylvania, right? So, she should have been a Philly fan, and she's traded teams for her, her guy. I understand all that, and obviously the contrast, which I'm sure we might get into a little bit later here on the podcast. But, my theory on life is you kind of also have to know a little bit about like what audience you're playing for, right? And let's just be honest. The audience, both in the stadium and watching on TV, probably are more supportive of Trump than Taylor Swift.
You think?
Yeah, I do. And that's why. So just knowing who your audience is, doesn't surprise me. So I was a little bit, distraught. And hey, Phil, not only was it sad to hear Taylor Swift booed, it was a little. They barely showed her because God knows it didn't seem like the Kansas City Chiefs even got on a plane and showed up for that game. But let's just be let's be clear.
Yeah. Hours before the Super Bowl, they had an announcement and some executive orders signed by Trump on his way to the Super Bowl. Did you see that?
I saw that.
So it's officially now the Gulf of America.
That's right. Which, by the way, it's interesting. A couple of my friends sent me some posts that they had looked at, on Google this morning, and sure enough, it shows up as, for all of you guys in America, it's showing up as Gulf of America. Now, I will tell you, since I am here in Mexico, when I go on to Google, it shows up as Gulf of Mexico here still.
Wow.
And my understanding is, if you are listening to us out there in another country, say Europe or somewhere, it supposedly shows up as both. It says Gulf of America, then in parentheses it says Gulf of Mexico.
Wow.
I can't verify that because I'm not there, but that's what I've heard.
Well, they during the interview on Fox News with Brett Bauer, he was asked about his statements about the 51st state being Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he was dead serious. So there's no question about that on his side. And the day before that, Trudeau was caught on mic. Wink,
yeah, hot mic.
Wink, wink.
Yep.
Caught on hot mic saying he's taking it very seriously, and he was talking to like the major movers and shakers in Canada when he was having this conversation.
Yeah, I heard that.
So do you think this is going to end up happening? Is it just a bargaining tool, or is it somewhere in between?
I think it's just a bargaining tool. Do I think Trump could partially be serious? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I don't see that happening, but I do think it's a bargaining tool. And I do think that, this goes back to what you and I talked about on other podcasts. There's a real reality in the fact that there's a lot happening, and whether you support movements by Trump or not, he is certainly following through on campaign promises and things that he said he was going to do. So I think that, and in a sense, it's kind of a little bit of a sad statement, but I think as Americans, we're not used to that. We're just not used to it. We're used to hearing a lot, particularly leading up to an election, and then having not really anything happen.
Right.
That's kind of our status quo. And that's not really happening. And you have to kind of cut through. I think you got to cut through some of the noise, because I do think there's a lot of noise. I mean, Trump is kind of famous for just throwing a bunch of stuff out there. And we started talking about some of it last week. But I'll give you another crazy example. You bring up Gulf of America. I just saw a couple hours ago they're going to change the name of Fort Bragg in North Carolina back to Fort Bragg from Fort Freedom or Fort Spirit or whatever the hell they called it. However, is a play on words a little bit. It's not Fort Bragg as in the original Confederate General Bragg, but another guy that served in the military that was got a Medal of Honor or whatever he got. So they're renaming the base back to the old name. Kind of, I think, like I said, this is kind of noise, right? I mean, I think it's just that they want to make it, they want to bring things back or erase things possibly that the last administration did. So some of it's just it's kind of garbage.
Well, Trump, he's famous for, one of the things he's famous for is writing the book, The Art of the Sale. Right. He is a salesman more than anything else.
Yeah.
And this thing that he's doing with the executive orders, one of the things you just mentioned, is a sales strategy to me.
Yeah.
You get enough people saying yes, yes, yes. You get enough yeses, you'll end up getting the closing yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that he's going to pass so many executive orders. He's going to slip some stuff past. I'm not saying it's going to be good or bad, but it's going to be slipped past somebody. I believe this is kind of like smoke.
Well, Phil, it already is. It's a smokescreen, and there's a lot of things going on. And I think that him and his team sat down. And this is what I envision happened. He got sworn into office. He sat down with his team and they said, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to release at least 20 items a day that are new. And there, some of them, out of those 20, 3 of them are going to be absolutely, mind shattering. And we're going to just keep doing that. And every single day without no days off, 7 days a week, and see what happens. And you just put out press release after press release. Look, he's already done a bunch of interviews. He's done press conferences. His press secretary has been on there every day. His administration, every one of them has had a press conference. I see every one of them having a press conference almost every day. He is absolutely inundating the news cycle, the news media, the public, the world leaders, everything. Nobody can even follow it. If you, God forbid, you went on vacation for 3 days and tuned out, it's not like a soap opera. Like I equate the U.S. government in the past as running very similarly a soap opera. If you were turning into As the World Turns and you went on vacation and came back a month later, or even for that matter, a year later, you could catch up to the soap opera immediately. You know what was going on, like, right? They move it. They move at such a slow pace. He has broken that whole thing. If you went, into a cave and came back out 3 days later, you'd have no idea what was going on in America. You'd have no idea.
Right. It's a whole new world. It really is.
It's a whole new world.
The most basic ideologies of our country have reverted back.
And I believe that this is being done on purpose. And I do think that they've plotted this out to some extent. And I agree with what you said, Phil. So some of the stuff is not going to stick. But if you take a paintball and you just start rocket launching in every direction, eventually the barn is going to change colors. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you're seeing. And here's the funny part. And I don't know if you wanted to go down this road today at all or not, but I bring this up at risk. It's like he took one of the largest events possibly in the last 100 years of human history, and what I'm talking about is the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. And in a matter of a sentence, he said, why don't we, America, take over a territory, go in, completely build it up as something different, relocate these people, put them in better places. And by the way, I don't even think most of his team knew he was going to say it because, some of his guys looked like, what the hell did you just say? But here's the reality of it. He's had just about every world leader in the world comment on it. He's now had today, I think he had the Jordanian president or prime minister or whoever, king, in town. He's going to meet with the Egyptians. Those are the two leading players, right? Because he already had Netanyahu, who, by the way, agreed to it, number one. Number two.
That was the wild part to me.
Yeah, he agreed to it. And then number two also agreed to another one of Trump's all of a sudden out of nowhere. He goes, I think this agreement that we made with Hamas as of Saturday at noon, if they don't release everybody, the bet's off. And sure enough, today, Netanyahu says, yep, that's the deal. Israel's on board with that. What? Wait, what? Like 5 days ago, this was unheard of. And I actually believe that, like you said, through so many statements and prognoses and declarations and whatever he's going to do, I wouldn't be half surprised if half of this plan actually happens. I honestly to God wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't have in a million years thought there was going to be any movement. I mean, if you look at pictures of the Gaza Strip, and I've been through that area of the world. If you look at pictures right now, and people, for those listening out there that don't really understand, the Gaza Strip, although it has a lot of people in it, I think it's got 2.5 million people or something like that, is pretty small. So it's not Trump saying we're going to take bulldozers and we're going to go back and forth and we're going to plow it to the ground and flatten it. Not that. That's not that big of a task, to be honest. And if you've seen pictures recently, it's virtually flattened. These people have been allowed back in, the Palestinians, and they're walking along streets with just rubble on either side. So there's nothing there. So to say, and I'm not suggesting I support this or don't support it, but to say they need to leave and we're going to give them some great place to live. It's not a far stretch to say, well, God, just about anything's going to be better than standing in a pile of rubble, right? So I get where the dialogue is coming from. Obviously, that's taking this down to the most simplistic level, and there's a lot more involved in it. But I mean, a week ago, I don't think anybody besides Trump and his brain ever would even conceive of this plan. Period.
Not only that, I can't recall the last time all of the leaders that you named were communicating back and forth rapidly like this.
Never. Never. Because up to today, the status quo has always been, we need a Palestinian state, but we're never going to commit to where the hell that is. We're never going to commit to who actually controls it. We're never going to commit to the parties that are involved. There was no commitment on any side ever about anything. And this is the first time I've heard somebody say, hey, we're just going to knock it down because Israel already did that. We're going to build up a bunch of resorts and stuff, and some of the Palestinians will be able to come back and work at it, and America's going to own it, and America's going to have a strong presence there. By the way, I get where Trump's going to is he's basically trying to put an American presence in the Middle East without having to pay Israel to do it.
Yes. I believe actually that in the end, if you said, Phil, so where do you think this is going to end? I think we're around about working our way into occupying, not owning, not occupying. We're going to occupy.
Yes.
We all we really want is the military presence.
Correct. And he sees it because he's a hotel developer and a real estate guy. He sees control by basically, I know in his head he's envisioning Hilton hotels and Ramada and the Waldorf Astoria. He's picturing American entities with beachfront resorts there, and that by definition is control.
I think he's thinking bigger than that. I think he's thinking phone company, pipe, water system.
Yep. Military base, communications, satellite communications.
Building a country, a city, or whatever you want to call it.
Agreed. 100%. 100%. And if anything, it's not only as a land grab from the Palestinians, it's also a land grab from the Israelis, which, by the way, have already essentially agreed to it. So, which is ironic in itself. I get why the Israelis would agree to it because they've got no better interest than getting the Palestinians the fuck out. I mean, that's just the reality.
You have to understand, though, about the Netanyahu portion. He's now basically their existence is what we decide.
Yes.
And we've generally had people who are sympathetic and empathetic to what they want.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that we now have a leader in office where I better fall in line.
Yeah.
And he doesn't value them in the same way. He doesn't have any sentimental or religious feelings or anything about it. It's strictly business to him.
Yeah, but so Netanyahu's an interesting scenario. I can attack both sides for this. He is powerful and he's in his place today, largely because not only Trump, but also Joe Biden. You got to remember that the Americans over the last 4 years have totally given Netanyahu the ability to basically exterminate the Gaza Strip. So that didn't come from Trump. That was pre-Trump. That was Biden. Biden was the one that said, "Here you go, have fun, crush them." And now Trump is in power, and Trump suggested ideas that Netanyahu also likes. So it's an interesting. And Trump, by the way, if you've said, I saw a couple polls that were put out by some Israeli media, and Trump is extremely popular in Israel. He's got a very high approval rating in Israel. So
I haven't seen any kind of poll for any country anywhere that he isn't extremely popular right now. He is swinging home runs with every swing. Yeah.
I know. And that is the reality. One of my liberal friends asked me that the other day. They're like, well, where do you see this going? And I go, well, until the you guys, meaning the Democrats or the other side, come up with some legitimate counter plan, then you're basically dealing with a guy that, right, wrong, or indifferent, has become very powerful because he's very popular. And if anything, his popularity is rising right now. And so that if I'm a liberal or a Democrat, I'm threatened by that. And I don't have an answer. There's been no answers presented as to how to combat that. And I think as long as, and I think that's that, like I said earlier on the podcast, I think that's Trump's plan right now is to come out with 20 plans a day. There's just so many plans. He can never be accused of not trying to do things. Like, I mean, even if you don't agree with him, he's trying to do things.
Or that he's too old and not working.
Oh, I mean, and that, by the way, that's the other elephant in the room here, right? So the other elephant in the room is we were so accustomed to Biden, who was sleepwalking, dead walking, non-existent, couldn't speak, didn't meet, didn't have news conferences, didn't talk to anybody. I mean, it's night and day. It's black and white. There's just absolutely such a dichotomy between the two of them. We're just blown out of the water. We don't know what to do right now.
And like most CEOs make sure that they always are filmed doing something. So it looks like they're constantly working, but they pretty much don't do too much.
Right.
He's being filmed from like from like 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, I know.
Till 9 o'clock at night.
Yep.
Forbes on YouTube is constantly showing some kind of live video of him talking to somebody, meeting somebody, signing an executive order.
So you get whiplash from looking at the breaking news banner come across any one of your major news stations, because the breaking news thing is flying around. I mean, they might as well just leave it up.
But what I'm saying is you can't say like, no, those are just photo ops. He's really not working that hard. It's like, no, they're covering him 24/7. I'm wondering when he's sleeping.
Back to the Super Bowl. Why do you think Trump went to the Super Bowl? It was to continue to stay in front of, look, it's the biggest event that was going on in that time slot. Where the hell do you expect him to be? You know, he's not going to try to compete with that. Hell no, he's just going to go hijack it.
Mike, he understands the assignment. I mentioned this a few weeks ago. In my opinion, the president he doesn't actually have the power. The president is the front man for the power of America. And like I said, he gets the assignment and he's being a great front man.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, to go to what I was just saying earlier, if you truly are annoyed or don't like him or want some other kind of change, then you better come up with some other ideas and start throwing things out there pretty quick, because I don't see this stopping anytime soon. And by the way, he's about to put in tonight, I heard, and speaking it to your 24 hours a day, tonight at midnight or 2 minutes after midnight, they're about to make Tulsi Gabbard is going to be confirmed to take over. I can't, there's so much going on. I can't remember what the hell position she's being confirmed for at this point. Defense? No, that's Hegseth. I don't even know. See, I don't know. I honestly can't remember. But anyways, I mean, to my point, it's just non-stop. So far, he has had basically nobody denied that he's wanted to put into his government. Nobody. Everybody's passed. So I get the argument out there that we're concerned with this, quote, dictatorship approach, and concerned that he has too much power, and concerned that, oh my God, there's no checks and balances. Well, guess what, guys? Unless you guys come up with a contrary idea, there isn't going to be any checks and balances. I mean, that, and I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing. I'm refreshed in a sense that something's happening. You know, I think I've said this on the podcast before. I'm just excited that something is occurring. I do think, to what you said earlier, Phil, you know, Gulf of America and changing the name of Fort Bragg and some of this other noise out there, it's noise. Okay, and, you know, I don't know if I support all of this nonsense, but
just before we go too much further, for our listeners, Tulsi Gabbard is nominee for Director of National Intelligence,
There you go.
and it should happen at midnight.
At midnight. Because why not? And something else is going to happen at 2 a.m. And by 4 a.m., we've just found out that we own Sudan or something. Who the hell knows? I mean,
so
it's hard to keep track of the stuff. But there's a reason. The problem is that with a high approval rating and with a mandate, because there was some discussion earlier about whether he had a mandate or not or whatever. Well, I'll tell you what, if there was any discussion if he had a mandate when he first arrived on the scene, I would say there's no discussion that he has a mandate today because if you're on the Democratic bus, the wheels have flown off the side of the bus, rolled down the hill, gone into a crevice, and have disappeared from the universe. Like you are completely fucked. That's the bottom line. And I'm not suggesting that you can't come back or that there aren't better ideas or that there shouldn't be contra ideas to some of Trump's things. But man, I'm listening. You better hurry up and come out with them.
Well, Mike, almost every nation on earth, they missed the UN deadline for new climate targets.
That's right.
They were supposed to, they already had climate targets, but they were supposed to set new ones to be reached by 2035. There's 200 countries total. And I think it is 10 of those 200 are reported. So 190 countries did not report for the deadline. I think it's obvious that the reason that is because Trump so boldly said he wasn't going to have anything to do with it weeks ago. So a lot of other countries, they don't feel like they have to fall in line either.
Well, I think the reality of it is that when he says something, he's the guy that's the risk taker, right? And he's the guy that's going to say it. I suspect that there was a number of other leaders in countries that felt the same way, but are too afraid to say it. But as soon as he said it, it's like pulling out of the World Health Organization. So we pulled out, and my understanding is that there's a line of countries that are now talking about pulling out as well. So it doesn't surprise me.
Mike, all the places you have been, you should really be in touch with this. Most of these other countries, it's more important to them and their welfare not to have these regulations, because that's where first world countries go and put their manufacturing and things like that. So they would literally be biting off their own nose.
That's right. Yep.
So another thing Donald Trump has done that has been talked about forever, I've never heard anyone say it wasn't a logical thing to do. Now he does it, and now they're upset about it. He's decided that we will no longer be making pennies because it costs 3.7 cents to make 1 cent. And I've heard that argument for about 15 years that we should get rid of the penny. And I never heard anybody debate the other side until Trump said, okay, let's just do this. It makes sense.
And two things I'll say about that. One, you just proved my point again. All of my friends on Facebook and whatnot that are continually posts. I think we all have those. I'm going to call them the eternal posters that they just put up, quote after quote after quote, anti-Trump, anti-this. This is what he said. Blah 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 blah. By the way, those are the people that have made Trump popular.
Yes,
it's the bottom line. So just know this. That you guys are the ones that I'm talking to you out there again, Mr. Posters. You are responsible for making Trump as strong as he is. And you use that penny thing as an example. These are all people that were on board with it before, but now that Trump said it, now it's a problem. And that's what's giving Trump the power. You guys have largely it wasn't even the conservatives and the Republicans that gave Trump the power. It's the liberals and the Democrats that continually are feeding this monster. I mean, this is the bottom line. Now, my comments on the pennies, no shit. We don't need pennies. I mean, give me a break. Of course we, there was a good article, which by the way, put out, I don't know, a year or two ago by and I don't remember who it was, by a liberal leaning media company that suggested not only should we get rid of pennies, we should get rid of nickels too. And yeah, probably. But are they saying that now? Yeah, no, of course not.
So let's stick with Trump for a minute. Army recruiting shattered record after Trump win. It's been they have had the best recruiting months consecutively since I think it was November 2024, and with the crescendo of this month of having I think it was like 346 soldiers daily for the whole month, where during the Biden administration, they were literally talking about how they were going to maybe have to reinstitute the draft because they can't keep the numbers up. I remember at Overland Expo talking to some recruiters that were at Overland Expo, and God, I need to find that video because I asked him on camera. I said exactly these words: "Why are you guys here?"
Right.
And he, in his very professional way, basically said, "We're desperate to be anywhere in any avenue, any place to find somebody."
Yep. I remember them there. They were setting up booths at just about everything they could set a booth up at.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So when people are more willing to risk their life under a president, that says a lot. That I think that's the biggest thing we've said today. That's the biggest symbolism of there's a positive change going on.
Well, look, I learned a long time ago in business that change is inevitable, and
yes,
people that move the ball forward and create happenings, create just any kind of movement, regardless of whether, I call it falling forward, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be successful. People want to be around leaders, and the definition of a leader is somebody that's pushing hard at the ball. And the bottom line is that we haven't seen that in a number of years. You didn't see that from Biden at all. And people, that's not attractive. That's not attractive to anybody. That's not attractive to people to work for them. It's not attractive to somebody that's thinking about the military or signing up to go fight for their country. Nobody wants to work for the guy at the top that doesn't do anything, right? So I can see, regardless of whether or not you think Trump is making all the right moves or not, the fact that he's pushing the envelope is what motivates people, right? And to some extent, is what's going to motivate. I'm hoping, anyways, if you want to argue for balance, I'm hoping that it motivates another side to this, because I do believe that there are are legitimate people that are frightened by some of the things that Trump's doing, and really firmly believe that there are other ways to combat some of the challenges and situations that we have. And I'm all for that. That's part of what America has always been about. And I do think that because Trump is so boisterous and so pushing that envelope, I think he will create the opposition at some point. But I can tell you what, right now, there's no opposition. The Democratic Party has to declare bankruptcy or something. I don't know what they got to do, but they've got to completely invent, because right now they simply just don't exist.
I agree.
I really don't think they do.
So, Mike, you know, Trump signed the executive order protecting women's sports.
Yep.
I don't want to talk specifically about the executive order and whether it's right or not, none of that.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the complete signing on YouTube, Forbes channel.
Yep.
They've been doing well,
I know.
Forbes on YouTube.
I know.
So I watched the complete signing from him, and I watched, there's two versions. There's one that he starts at the desk. I watched the live version where it's from him entering the room all the way to when people were milling around afterwards, right?
Yep.
And in the past few years, I can't recall one wholesome event where participants actually seemed engaged with the president and happy to be there. This was the case with this. There was old-fashioned sentimentality to it. There were all kinds of kids there. The kids, like, usually the kids are the ones hardest to keep their attention. They actually seemed infatuated with him in the moment. For some people, it may have even been like almost like a tearjerker moment when this was happening, the way he was engaging, the way they all crowded around him naturally. You can tell when something's been planned or not. It just happened organically. They crowded around him when they signed. The kids closest to him touched him. Kids don't touch adults that they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a natural thing. So what I'm getting to is, like I said, I haven't seen a moment like that that came off as sincere. What do you think about that?
I mean, you're talking about, so all in this one conversation in the last 10 minutes, we've talked about some major things, because these are issues that on the surface, some of them are smaller than others, right? But you know, you're talking about. I mean, this was basically a thing that said males cannot play in female sports. That's been hotly contested in the run up to the election. I would argue that's one of the reasons why the Democrats lost the election, because they focused on that. And to me,
absolutely.
And without getting into this too deeply, I mean, there's a lot of me that just is like, well, it just kind of sounds like common sense. So women play on women's teams, guys play on guys' teams. I don't know what we're talking about, but so there's that common sense. Look, if you take a poll nationwide, the polls show that the vast majority of people are in support of that, right? So, but that once again, that's a polar opposite of Biden could not. And Harris was, this is a good example. Kamala Harris, in her interview that she had with whatever, that, you know, the one that got sued over and finally came out, and there's more that they had cut out a bunch of shit. You know, she couldn't come out on the record and say, yeah, I'm okay with that. She couldn't do it. She just could not commit to something. So I think there was a lot of enthusiasm there, because here's something that's actually action that being taken place that I think we had I'll call it a consensus, in the sense that there is a majority of people in the United States support that.
So, Mike, let's play a game.
Okay.
Let's juxtapose the situation that I just described, the scenario, the scene, whatever you want to call it. Let's juxtapose this to a theoretical.
Okay.
Kamala Harris became president.
Yep.
She was the person coming into that room to sign an executive order for the same exact thing.
Yep.
Do you think it would have, the interactions back and forth and all the things that I described, do you think any of that would have happened?
No, and the reason I say no is because the difference there is that I don't know that she would be as authentic with it. It's
So
not
are you wait, you're saying I'm saying that she would have signed the same exact order. So they're both
Yep,
on the okay, go
agreed.
ahead.
But I don't think she may have signed it because I think ultimately she would. She's a politician. So I think politically, I think if you ask me, I think any president in the United States inevitably was going to sign that.
So maybe I should have given a different scenario. I'm not making the point of the actual bill. I'm
Correct.
saying that
The enthusiasm around it.
A president signing something, it's an event and
Yes.
the interaction between the people.
I don't believe it would have been an interaction. I think Donald Trump plays that he's really good at it. He's good at the interaction. He's a real person. I think the kids that you mentioned and the people that were in that room legitimately knew that he was on board with this, excited about it. He talked about it during his campaign, and he was authentic. And he's more of a, I mean, I hate to say this because I feel like I'm talking about a crazy, narcissistic guy that's all about himself, but I think we said this before. Shit, I'd rather have a beer with Trump than Harris. So I mean, he's just more of a real guy. But let me take this another level, and this is what I mean by being inundated with all this stuff, Phil. That on the surface, having guys not be able to play on girls' teams is. I guess it's a fairly big statement. It's not as big as we're going to throw 2.5 million people out of the Gaza Strip and we're going to take it over and make it a resort. And oh, by the way, everything you've always thought about for the last 100 years of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is all brand new as of today. Not as big as that. But then on the other side, his you know what his next executive order was back to back with the signing of the guys in women's sports was an executive order talking about paper straws or whatever.
Oh, I did see that.
I mean, can you imagine all in the same day? And this is what I mean by noise. He's signing an executive order talking about going back to straws.
But I saw the video and he's talking and he's just talking like a regular human being. He ain't talking that political stuff. He was like, I hate those straws. Have you ever had one? And it was like he was doing a Seinfeld bit.
Exactly. But this is my point. All of these things are happening, right? So like he and maybe this is the window into why people are afraid of him and don't like him is because he almost acts the same and has the same expressions on his face, regardless of whether he's talking about paper straws or 2.5 million people's lives in Gaza Strip. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he doesn't treat it any differently.
Let's be real, bro. What we're describing happens across the board. It doesn't matter what station you are in life. I know a guy who he had someone in mind to take over his business, and he chose somebody lesser than the person who would have done the job well, and it was because of his youth and his charisma. It wasn't because he wasn't qualified. He was the most qualified.
Yeah.
It's a knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people to cut off at the knees a person with more charisma than them, because that can be more powerful than any other skill that person brings to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. So, we can go on and on about talking about I mean, I don't know. I wish somebody, is there a counter online somewhere that tells you how many executive actions he's taken so far? I don't even know.
Bro, that's a good idea.
Right?
I'm surprised it might exist because that sounds so logical.
I feel like I should be putting it up on my screen here. We should have like little counters going on. By the way, the site, speaking of counters, the site that tracks the national debt and all those related other counters that count money and stuff, did add the tracker of how much money that the Department of the Doge or whatever you call it, the Elon Musk department, is saving, right? They added that tracker.
Mike, if I want to make sure to cover this, so I'm going to cover it now.
Okay.
It's some news that defends us from last podcast. We were talking about tipping and everything, and some of the responses were we were conspiracy theorists. Well, I hear that pretty much every week.
Yeah,
conspiracy theorists.
I know.
But conspiracy theorists about tips and everything. Even though I gave examples of how like some restaurants have been sued right here. You can Google that. But here's the ironic thing, because what made me upset and made me go on the whole rant was Amazon, right? The next day, this is the news. Amazon to pay nearly $4 million to settle lawsuit alleging it took tips from drivers. Amazon has agreed to pay nearly $4 million to settle charges that the e-commerce company subsidized its labor costs by taking tips its delivery drivers received from customers.
Yep, that's what I said on the podcast. Absolutely. Yep. I could have called that.
But
Yep.
The irony that news came out the next day.
Interesting. Very interesting.
That's all. I just feel vindicated.
Yeah. Hey.
The irony that something like this would come out the day after we made those statements. Because we just, for people who may go back to that podcast, we do our podcast on Tuesday.
That's right. We record for you guys. I think we've mentioned this before, but we record podcasts Tuesday afternoons and we release them on Friday. So that is our schedule.
So it hasn't come up yet, but eventually we're going to say something wrong, and it's going to be because we're doing it on Tuesday and it comes out on Friday. Right. It hasn't happened yet.
Well, I'll tell you what, in this new era of government, it's risky doing a podcast, recording it on Tuesday, because by the time the podcast comes out on Friday, 3 days have passed. There's been 47 more executive orders, and God knows what we've done, right? So, yeah, we might have to switch our recording day soon or do it live. It's no joke.
Okay, Mike, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Is there something you specifically wanted to cover? Because I got plenty to talk about. I just want to make sure.
Let's talk for a second about the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So what were your thoughts on the Super Bowl regarding A, the game, B, the commercials, and C, the halftime show?
Okay. So let me just start with, I don't watch national football, the NFL.
Okay.
And if people are wondering, I played football. So it's not like I don't like it or anything like that. I believe that the NFL made a statement the way that it treated Kaepernick, and I'm on the side of Kaepernick on this. So I would feel like an imbecile supporting the NFL when I feel like it doesn't support me. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing is, I did watch the halftime performance afterwards. So what were your questions? I can't tell you. I can't tell you about the game.
I was just okay. So you didn't watch the game.
So, but what were the other parts? I can tell you about.
Well, I was asking how you felt about the game, the halftime, and the commercials. Those are the three things that people usually are interested in.
So the commercials were just weird.
It's interesting you say that. I laughed at a few, but they were weird. Agreed. You had mustaches flying off. I'll tell you the weirdest commercial, Phil, was how the hell did they get Seal to do that commercial as a seal? He must be hurting for money or something. I couldn't believe he did that.
Bro, A Kiss
Talk
from the
about
Rose
weird.
came out like 20 years ago.
I know. That's what I mean. I was like, holy hell, this is, and I go, wow, that was a weird commercial. So, yeah, I got to agree with you on that.
Now, the halftime show, bro, see, these are the challenges of having a good suntan like mine and being on social media giving my opinion about these things.
I love it. That's why I asked you, Phil. Come on.
Oh, so you trying to put me on the hot seat.
I
Okay.
sure did. I sure did.
I'm supposed to say that was the greatest halftime show that ever existed.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't even in my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just enjoying. I listen to rap, so, and I do like Kendrick Lamar, and I was aware of all of the social commentary surrounding his performance and what songs he would sing, and would he sing
the Drake song.
Right.
I call it the Drake song, but yeah.
And so it was entertaining to sit there and see if he was going to sing the song and was he going to edit his words. But when I put it in the pantheon of Super Bowl performances, no. No. This is first of all, he started the thing off with a song on an upcoming album. So, and then he sang songs he didn't sing like his top popular songs other than that last song. And part of the gig is you pick somebody popular and they play their hits. He didn't play no hits. I like some of those songs, but they weren't the hits.
Yeah.
Now, visually, there was all kind of messaging and symbolism. I enjoyed that, but that's not Kendrick Lamar. That's whoever the production company is who worked with him that comes up with them ideas and stuff, which he's probably going to get credit for. And he probably did give some of his thoughts. But generally, when you are seeing a performer do a performance like that, it's producers and a production company that came up with the whole thing. So the thing that I liked most about it, I can't even really give him full credit for.
And it's interesting you say that. So my take on the whole thing was, I equate it to this way. He's a little bit like a poet. And it would almost be as if you sent... Right. So it would almost be as if you sent a poet to read poetry at halftime at a football game. It's kind of not really the right. It's kind of the wrong venue, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
But Mike, with that sentiment, I absolutely agree with you. Right.
Yep.
But if I was that poet, I would recite my poems that Roses are red. Violets are blue. I'm gonna make sure that the crowd know the words to and is cheering along. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, my feeling was kind of similar. Like there was a lot of production involved in that had meaning behind it. I do believe that it went over most people's heads, particularly the audience that was in that stadium, because let's look at demographics, right? And for that, a large demographics of a large part of the people watching on television too. But on top of that, to me, for a Super Bowl performance, it was just kind of boring. I guess you didn't have the. It's funny. I heard somebody say, "Hey, at least it wasn't a bunch of half naked people dancing around and blah blah." I mean, hey, I agree with that. That's true. It was a little more quote adult like, but it was just a little boring. It wasn't. You had to know the backstories and you had to know the drama behind some of that So it was a little more. They almost should have done a 5-minute tutorial on what you were about to see before they did it. You know what I mean? But that's just was my take on it. It by no means was it offensive or offending, or it was.
Well, it was offensive to Drake.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, right. Very actually. But it was, it was just a little on the just the boring side. But for me, that just dragged out from the game. The game itself was boring, and like you, Phil, and maybe for some of the, maybe not the exact same reasons, I don't watch the NFL anymore either. I was a big Miami Dolphin fan for many years. I followed football pretty closely for a long time. I just felt like it got to the point where there were too many agendas, I guess, and it was for me. Sports to me is entertainment, and when it gets to be something more than that, I guess that's when I want to tune out. Like if I want to talk, look, if I want to listen to our podcast and I want to hear about politics or hear about controversial things or hear about something, then I'm going to listen to the podcast. But if I want to just chill, relax, and not think about major things, I'm going to go watch some, frivolous episode on HBO. And to me, that's what sports was, right? I mean, so that's kind of why I don't watch sports either. I'm a football in particular.
It used to be my escape.
Yeah.
No social commentary, and I get to see somebody try to knock somebody head off.
Yeah, exactly.
I can be my total male self.
Yep. 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 So that's what's changed. So yeah, for me, the whole thing was to me it was a lose. It was. The commercials weren't like they were back in the day. The halftime, for me, like halftime shows we talked about, I remember like Lady Gaga and Prince and shit. Michael Jackson did it. And there were some big performances that were like over the top. Shit, Janet Jackson obviously was that famous year. There was just a lot of stuff. Coldplay.
Yeah, it used to be that if they said you were performing at the Super Bowl, you were the top shelf of a superstar. You were the epitome of what superstar meant. You weren't just a celebrity.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, so that's what's changed. So I don't know. Any case.
There is one other element of that, Mike. I have to constantly remind myself when I'm watching TV, commercials, scrolling through social media, nothing is targeted to me. Yep. So there's a whole demographic of people who, and the numbers agree with it, that were totally enjoying the Super Bowl halftime. And it's the most watched, the most replayed. It's literally set records.
Sure. Yep.
So
I mean, my biggest demographic going against me on the whole thing is I'm too damn old.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm just demographic right out of the whole thing.
Like I've learned that I can't critique a movie for a younger person because I can watch a movie for 30 minutes before you start giving me clues as to what direction it is. Right. I can watch a movie for 2 hours and wait for the ending.
Yep.
You have to know everything like in the first 5 minutes of the movie now. That's the way they're written. Like
I know.
Everything, everything already.
Yep. Yep.
And I could just go on and on. The way things are programmed, written, everything is not to entice me to watch it.
Exactly. Agreed.
Well, Mike, you got anything else you want to say?
No, was that the whole hour?
That's beyond an hour.
Wow, time flies. Amazing.
I was, and I still didn't cover all the things I wanted to cover. I was literally trying to push you off subjects real quick so Go to the next one.
Good thing we have other weeks to go.
I could have stayed on Taylor Swift.
I know. Yeah, me too. Poor girl.
And there was no pun intended when I said that.
Sure, Phil.
All right, guys. You know what I'm going to say. Tread lightly. Stay safe. I can't even say.
No, it's the other way around.
This is the first time I ever messed up.
I know.
Stay safe. Tread lightly. And hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.